Welcome to Whatcha Makin, a podcast about sharing ideas, discussing the business of making, and connecting with the maker community. Your hosts are Alex Adams, an engineer turned furniture maker of Type A Furniture, and an alien pretending to be a DIY craftsman, Alex Duffey of Duffey Woodcraft. This is Whatcha Makin.
Hello, makers, and welcome to Whatcha Makin, a podcast where we talk all about our current projects, spotlight makers throughout the community, and remind you that Australia is physically wider than the moon and 100% more deadly. This week's main topic is all about not short form content. It's all about learning online versus learning in person. I'm Alex Duffey, and you can find me on Instagram and at YouTube at Duffey Woodcraft.
And I am Alex at Type A Furniture on Instagram, here to remind you that rockets for spaceships were inadvertently determined by the width of a horse's butt.
That is true, actually.
It is very true. Google it. It's real.
Google it.
Also,
you know what else? What else is real?
Our Patreon is real, so you can go to patreon.com/whatchamakinshow, and you can go there and find the many fun benefits that we have, one of which being an upcoming quarterly Zoom call, which will be on October 25th at 8 p.m. Central Time. So for our international viewers, make sure and enter in that time to correspond with whatever time and date that you actually have, to make sure that it's all aligned as well as your chakras.
Again, that is October 23rd?
October 25th.
October 25th. At
8 p.m. Central.
Perfect. I have a short-term memory, so I want to make sure everybody heard it. Cool. Well, in that case...
What you doing?
What you been doing this week, Alex?
So this past week, I had 2 cross-country meets in the span of 1 week, and so that was a lot of what took up most of my week. So one of the meets was somewhere else. It was also one of the biggest meets that we have of the year. And then the second one is actually a home meet that we host. So I had to make a cross-country course. Yeah, that's something that you probably don't hear about every day. So it actually wasn't quite that difficult because the course has been set up and more or less the path has already kind of been predetermined. Like, I didn't have to switch anything if I didn't want to, and I didn't want to switch anything really. And the previous year when I was assistant coach, like, I had helped set up the actual course itself. So I had some reference there, and I had help for a good portion of it. But it took a couple of days to get everything set up because the golf course wants to have golfers continue golfing without interruption. So you've got to do it a little bit slowly without interrupting the flow of the actual golf course itself. So it makes for a much nicer place to actually run because it's like well maintained, but it comes with the caveat that you kind of got to work around their schedule a little bit. So it involves a lot of, for those who are unfamiliar with cross country, for the high school level, it's a 5K, so 3.1 miles is how far they run, and then they run it on a course that is hilly to some degree depending on your local terrain. So generally what a lot of schools will do is they'll set it up at a golf course, or if there's like an empty park of some kind or something like that, they might set it up there. So those are generally the spaces where those will get set up. And generally speaking, you'll use the like the marking paint that they use on football fields to mark a line as a path that the kids follow. And then you've got a leader card at the front to lead the kids that are the literal front runners. And then you've got a card at the back making sure that no one is injured on the course. So So you go through and you've got to make sure that everything is good with your path, because there's a few spots where sometimes with drainage and whatnot, you can get some like wonky terrain. So you got to make sure that everything is like good to go and you don't have to like readjust your path to like go around something. Say if like, you know, a tree gets taken out and there's like a huge void there or something like that, and you want to go around it because you don't want the kids to like trip on it or whatever. And then we set up a bunch of posts with flags on them, a few smaller posts that are only about like 3 foot tall to kind of go around curves with those kind of like flag pennants that are on strings, so the kids can see them and follow the path and, you know, not take shortcuts and cheat, because that does happen. That's why you also have people out on the course to, you know, make sure that everyone is abiding by those rules. So it was a lot of setup with that. And then one thing that we do extra on our course that not all places do is we'll put out those little sprinkler flags about 10 feet off to the side, just so that like it helps visibly to see the direction that you're going a little bit better, because sometimes depending on which direction that you're running, the light can not hit the paint on the grass right, so it can be kind of difficult to see at times, depending on if like you've got like the sun in your face or it's at your back or whichever direction it's coming in from. And then we have the finish line setup where you gotta like set up everything and a little bit of like a chute, so that as the kids go through the finish line, you've got they run a camera system that actually reads the bibs, and so they do camera recognition nowadays to get placing and times, and then it kind of like narrows down into a chute, so then kids file through and then they go and get I know at ours the parents generally have like cool towels that they give the kids and popsicles and other stuff to kind of help them cool off and recover from the run. So we did a lot of work to put that together. And, you know, it's you know, when you see the kids running and going out on the course, you know, you're proud of that, because you're like, I made that, I put that together, they're following the course that I set out, even though I kind of like screwed up some of those lines. I definitely had a few lines that were not very straight, but the kids figured it out. So we did actually, so with that home meet, it's a little bit of a smaller one, there's only 5 teams, but both our boys and girls teams actually won that meet. So we got little like, there are these little like plaques that they give out for like the champion and runner up at those meets. Unfortunately, like I think they used to be a little bit nicer, but now they're like, I think they're like made out of like some like, it's a nicer pine, like not like a really crappy pine, but it's still pine. But then they laser engrave the meet name and stuff on there and championship stuff. So we have cool. That. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. That, you know, also a good morale booster for the kids, you know, when you can actually win a meet. So, and a lot of kids that place, because they usually award medals to the top 15, and a little bit of a smaller meet, you've got more of a chance to come home with one of those. So
nice.
Yeah, overall pretty good with the cross country meet that we had going on there. Other than that, so I actually made a wand out of walnut that I turned with my son at his request. So,
cool.
Yeah, so my son, he's been reading the Harry Potter books. He's like, I think he's on the 4th book now, which I think is the Goblet of Fire.
You should have, don't
Order
say about Harry Potter or anything. You should have said your son listened to the podcast last week and heard TJ talk about wands and asked you to create a wand for him.
Okay, you go ahead and clip that, and then we'll use that.
Yeah.
So we had actually, I had tried my hand at making a wand. This was months ago, and I went down to a much narrower stock than I should have, and it popped off of the lathe and didn't stay. So it was kind of a failed experiment back then. So I knew from then, once he had his request, it's like, okay, I got to start off with thicker stock. And he had put together on a sheet of paper, like all of like the dimensions and the features that he wanted. Like he wanted a little ring spot up closer to the handle where it's got a little spot, you know, you can rest your thumb. And then on the bottom, you've got like a little bit of a rest for the
Right.
meat of your hand, and then a little bit up the wand. He had kind of like a what's the opposite of a round over, where it's like inset, where it's like a curved inside. I'm trying to think, like a fillet, but not that.
Sure,
exactly
that
sure.
thing. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you carve it with like a bowl bit, right? You get a inside curve. Anyway, that's what we did for that, and so the chisels that I had for that, not chisels, turning tools that I had for that are like a Harbor Freight set, and they were not sharp in the least bit. So I struggled a little bit because, especially with it being a wand, like I had the piece, like he wanted it to be about 15 inches long as the finished piece, and so I had to add on a little bit to each side as sacrificial material so that I could just cut it off later off of the bottom and then off of the top portion when it came to a tip on the end of the wand.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fairly long, and the lathe that I have is just the cheap, like it's even more bare bones than the one that TJ had mentioned. I think it was like the Red Bauer lathe or whatever. Mine's like the Central Machinery version, which is like even more small. Like it's good. I think it's got like a 30-inch length for the workpiece, if I remember right, but it doesn't have like a super strong motor by any means. So like, and when I had got it, it was to finish up doing a bunch of handles, so I didn't have much need for it beyond like doing handles and small stuff. So that's kind of what I use it for. Anyway, so as I'm using my turning tools that are super dull, because when I was doing those handles, TJ's gonna hate me for this. I used my my regular bench chisels and I flipped them upside down.
Did you learn nothing from last week, Alex?
No, that was originally, that was back when I did this like months ago. That was way back when.
Okay.
I knew what I was doing. Like I knew I had to have my bench rest really close to the workpiece, because you got to support the weight on the backside, because otherwise if you like dig in, it's just gonna like pop your tool up and it's gonna fly out of your hands. But anyway, this time I used all turning tools on it, although they were all very dull. And I got a little bit of bouncing in the center portion, a little bit of deflection, because if it's not sharp enough to cut, it's going to press up on it. And if it's in that center piece of that, like, gosh, what was it? I think it was about an 18-inch piece of wood, it's going to bend and deflect, and then you get some chatter going on there. So I had to fight that a little bit, where I had a bunch of those milling marks from the lathe, from the tools, the turning tools. And so I ended up using some like 100 grit sandpaper on there to try and smooth that out a little bit. And that kind of helped, but you can, like, if you look for it, you can kind of see some of those marks still. But then, I come through with a 220 grit to sand the rest of it. And then it was, I mean, it feels good in your hand. So it works just fine. And then I just threw a little bit of Bumblechute's wood oil on it, because that's what I've been using for a lot of like handheld projects lately, because it's thin, it goes on quick, it smells good. My wife doesn't complain about the smell that leaches up from the basement into the living room, because it's a tung oil with citrus solvent, so it's got the citrus smell to it, so it smells nice while you're working with it. So I let my son apply the oil with some gloves on, so that he was involved with the process some. And you'll be glad to know that he has committed me to one new wand design per week on Saturdays now. We're going to make 2 each time, is what he told me. So he's apparently taking over some of my manufacturing throughput. So, but what I told him, and this is after coming off of parent-teacher conferences where, like, writing stuff out is not his, like, strong suit, where I told him, all right, if you're going to make wands of, like, the different characters, you got to, like, write out descriptions for us so that we know what we're doing, to kind of trick him into, learning stuff, because that's what we do as parents. We trick our kids into doing stuff that's beneficial to their growth and development. So I'm trying to get him to write out all of these details beyond just the, like, dimensional sketches that he already put together, which are they're pretty good. He's
Nice.
got the right amount of detail on there, so I look forward to seeing what my work orders look like as they start coming through here for this upcoming week.
Nice.
And then the other thing that I had was actually just today. I've been needing to reflatten my router sled, because when I originally flattened it with the bit, like I put in a bit extension on my slab flattening bit, but I had not flattened the rails, and there's this weird kind of hump that added into like one portion of it, which is not like a huge deal on smaller work pieces, but that error kind of compounds on your bigger 8-foot pieces. And as this frame, which for those who are not familiar is made out of 2x6s, which lives outside, you get rain and then it dries up and then you get heat and you know just normal stuff that happens over time. So it's been needing reflattening, and I also needed to pull it away from the fence on one side so it's easier for me to access the far side of the actual router sled as it's in my driveway. So I need to access that side for like cables and stuff that I run through for the actual router itself. And then the last thing that I have going on that I'm sure many people have seen is my incessant usage of Sora 2 that has come out, which is the video creation AI tool from OpenAI. So
It is quite disturbing what your brain has come up with for some of this stuff.
I don't think it's that unhinged.
I don't know, man. The whole Dan marrying a thing of mayo was disturbing, to say the least.
Oh, come on. It's nothing that hasn't been discussed in the AWP Discord before. I'm just saying what everyone else is thinking, man. But anyway, one of my creations as of late was myself turning into a snake and slithering into the fondly named Snake Hole Lounge in my garage, where the garter snake has fled and lived, and then I reappear in a club on the inside and have drinks with Malcolm over at Bossa Nova Woodworks. The other person was actually supposed to be Dan, but it just made another Malcolm, so apparently Malcolm
I thought
is
it was
a twin.
See, I thought it was supposed to be Dan, and it made another Dan as Malcolm because Malcolm looked more like Dan than Dan looked like Malcolm.
I think for me it was more of like the beard. Like I think it took Malcolm's beard, and then just go watch it and make your own opinions. Do you think it looks more like Dan from Daniel Dunlap Woodworks, or more like Malcolm from Bossa Nova Woodworks? Is it Woodworks or Woodshop? I can't remember.
I don't know.
I think it's Woodworks.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was one of my more recent digital content creations, and I will not apologize for what I have made.
You should.
It's exactly like what you would see in the Animorph books. Do you remember those?
Oh yes,
The little cover where
that's
it's
what I
like
thought you were making to begin with, was an Animorph.
I mean, it's close enough to the Animorphs book series, which for some reason I thought they had a TV series of it, but I don't see any.
I remember a
location
TV
of that
series.
happened. Was there? Oh, maybe because I googled the.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure.
I got the book. I got the book series pulled up, so maybe it was separate from the TV series.
I could have sworn, there was a TV series. But
Yeah.
anywho, so this
Anyway,
week
that is what I've been making.
So this week I've been focusing on YouTube videos. So I are releasing a new video tomorrow, which will have already come out by the time this airs. And it's around 3 new 2-player games that I made. So Marble Solitaire, or sorry, not Marble Solitaire, Marble Aggravation, Marble Tic-Tac-Toe, or Chinese Checkers, sorry, and then cribbage boards, some, I'm calling them pocket cribbage boards that just fit in your pocket. So
it's not a
those have
marble
been really
cribbage board, though, right? It's a regular.
No, it's with regular
pegs.
cribbage pieces. Yeah, with pegs.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it was a fun little challenge to just make some 2-player versions of games that are regularly like 6 players. I mean, cribbage, of course, is a 2-player game to begin with, or 3-player. But it was I wanted to make one that you could put in your pocket and take with you.
Gotcha. I can't remember. Are the cribbage pieces that you make, are they metal or are they wood?
They're metal.
The metal ones. Okay.
I don't make them. I order them. But yeah, I don't.
I've tried to make those, pieces. And they are a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah, they absolutely are.
Especially,
so yeah, no.
Because I tried to use one of the doweling jig things, and trying to get like a 3/32 piece of wood through a dowel plate without it snapping as you're trying to like hammer it through is quite difficult. And
technically they are supposed to have a taper on them too, which
right.
is even harder to do at that size. So yeah, it makes sense to have machines make them. So that's going to be out on YouTube, which will be really fun. I also then dropped the files on my Patreon for free for my patrons, and they're available for purchase on my Etsy and on my website now as well. So just in time for the holidays for people to be making gifts and stuff. So I wanted to drop some new files. And hopefully I'll be having some new files come out here all through the holiday season. So I've got a couple more videos I'm working on right now that I don't want to mention, but will be coming down the pipeline with some new files as well. So I did that. I finished up all the I bought on Temu. I bought these little cheese boards that are about they're a 5x7 size cheese board, and they come with 2 cheese knives, and they come in a nice package and have like wrapping around it and everything. They look really great, and they're nice wooden cheese boards. And I'm like, okay, well, I could just laser a logo on them and resell them for a good markup, because people will spend money at Christmas on that kind of stuff. And so on Temu, I could get these for about $2.50 a piece for the set. And then I'm planning on selling them for like $15 a set with some cool lasered flowers and also some mushrooms on them. So I did 50 of those this week and got those all wrapped up. And then everything that I've done the last 3 weeks, all the Yahtzee boxes, the dice boxes, my little board games and everything, all that gets tung oil on it as a finish. And I only have so much clean space in the house that is like available for stuff to be drying. So that's been my biggest holdup right now, is like every night I wipe on some tung oil on some new product and then leave it overnight to cure. But I can only do so much on my table at one time. So I feel I have a whole bunch backed up in my kitchen right now of like boxes of product that need to be finished, but haven't got there yet. So I feel like I'm behind, but I'm actually ahead in production. I just haven't finished them.
You're ahead in terms of like the steps that you've done, but you're doing so many at each of the stage that it probably feels like you don't have something in hand that's actually finished. So it feels like you haven't completed anything.
Well, in this year, I also am doing things in reverse of how I normally do them. Normally, I make my big items first and then make all the small stuff. But this year, I'm reversing that. I'm making all of my small little $10, $15 items first, and then I'm moving into the bigger $100 board game items. The reason why I'm doing that is I'm doing so much. I've sold out of the small stuff a lot faster than the big stuff. So I'm using this time earlier to make a lot more of these small items that I normally only make like 50 of. I'm making 100 or 200 of while I have the time to do it. So, and then I'll move into the bigger board games towards the end of my production season, right before the markets. And that way I'm also set up to make those if I do happen to sell out of them. Those are like the big board games like Aggravation, Chinese Checkers. Those are really fast on the CNC. So I can knock those out midweek in between markets if I needed to, where I can make, 2 or 3, which is what I sell on average at a market during the holidays. So that's, $300-400 worth of product, versus having to sit and make 150 keychains. Like this year I'm trying to prep that if I have to restock things, it's going to be the big ticket items, which will allow me to just do a couple of things midweek versus having to make 100 things midweek. So We'll see how that works. In my head, it makes sense, but I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, it kind of makes sense because has your trend still been continuing with your retail partner stores where it's still the 20 and under kind of items that are seeing the most traction?
It is. Excuse me. Apparently I'm yawning. It is, but I'm hoping that'll change for the holidays. Usually holidays, people spend more money, right? So, and
Right.
especially at the bigger markets. So I'm hopeful that will change, but that was a part of my reasoning for wanting to start with all the small items first. So,
how many of those would work as stocking stuffers in terms of size?
oh, the majority of things.
Most of them would.
Keychains, bookmarks. I've got my little tricky triangle and tic-tac-toe boards. The cheese knife sets. All those are small enough that you could fit inside of a stocking. So a lot of my items are stocking stuffers.
Oh, and since you mentioned the cheese knife things again, is the board with that set the only thing that you're laser engraving, or are you doing anything with the knife and fork thing at all?
It also has a little laser on it, or a little idol on it. And
is that on the metal portion or the wood portion?
The wood portion.
Okay.
Yeah, everything I'm doing is on the wood portion, and I can, for those watching, I'm showing an image of it right now on the screen. So the little board plus 2 little cheese knives in a package is
okay,
how
so that's about what,
a
8x4 inch package ish?
Yeah, basically. It would maybe 4.
A little bit
at the
smaller
biggest
than
end.
a normal piece of printer paper.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And did you do the lasering for those on the Asmer?
Nope, I did them on my one laser. So now that I'm officially no longer under contract with Asmer, I can say this. I gave the Asmer away 5 months ago. So my Asmer I didn't need. I had got that as a content deal with Asmer to do a content, and I wasn't going to accept it. But at the same time that they offered it to me, a friend of mine, her laser died, and I was like, oh, well, I could offer her the laser if she wants it for free after I'm done making my reels. And so I talked to her about it. And she had said yes. And so I literally recorded all the 6 reels I needed to make in one weekend and then packaged up and gave it to her. And so I've just been sitting on them for once a month for the last 6 months, which my last reel dropped at the beginning of October. So I'm now out of contract and done with them. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's a good machine. I really do like it. And she's been using it. And she has been doing some really cool laser designs with it. So I still recommend the machine. And I just didn't need it because I already had my one laser, CO2 style one versus the diode laser that they have. But it's still a great machine, especially for a hobbyist.
Because how many watts was that laser?
48 watts.
Okay, so that's a pretty sizable one, because the one that I have, I think, is only 12 or 15, which is...
Yeah. I mean
it's still good for engraving, but...
Yeah, it cuts slower, but just as deep as my CO2 laser does. So, yeah. Anyways, so that's what I've been making.
Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it!
As far as breaking, I'll just start here first. I have just a couple of quick things. I got a new tattoo, so I've been breaking my skin again. And if you've been seeing me look down, it's because I'm slowly picking at it because it's in the weird skin shedding snake phase, and it's itching. And I forgot my little moisturizer cream downstairs, but. Yeah, so, that really is the only thing I've been breaking. Otherwise, I've just been really tired. I've been pushing a lot on the video content, and I'm feel another little burnout section coming again, which makes sense because I'm also pushing so hard with my production mode and stuff. And so I know that come the end of this month, I will be out of production at least. And so then it's just doing markets, and markets, even though they're exhausting, I get really hyped up because I get a lot of customer feedback right off the bat. And, and that really pumps me up to make more videos and do things because I get direct feedback from customers and want to make changes and make videos about that. So I know that that'll come around. I just need to push through and make it through this month. So, yeah. But that's what I've been breaking. What about you, Alex?
Yeah, so as I mentioned with setting up the cross-country course, some of those posts, some of those are they're like a 4-foot section of like rebar with a little like triangle welded on them. So I just put those in with like a little sledgehammer. And then there's also they're like taller posts that have like a directional turn flag that are like, they're taller so they're easier to see. So when I was putting one of those in, as I was using my sledgehammer, my finger got between the sledgehammer and the post, which
Is
oddly
it all
enough
black
that
and
happened.
purple?
What?
Is it all black and purple now?
You can see the little line where it cut.
Oh yeah, you're
on my
gonna have
finger on the
as
screen.
your nail grows out, it's gonna turn nice and purple.
Yeah, it's like pretty close to the edge, so I'm not quite sure. Funny thing is, I did the exact same thing last year, and I vowed I wouldn't do it this year, and I had like gotten work gloves and stuff, and I did like the exact same thing, except for last year, I think I did it on a different finger, if I remember right. So
That's
anyway,
funny.
like
It's sad.
I do have like so it's not like I'm not like the railroad worker where it's like two-hand like sledgehammer come in and hit. It's more like I'm holding the sledgehammer closer to the head of the sledge, and because I have more control of it that way, and then I'm just kind of tapping on the metal post, because when you're at a golf course, most of the time, like, the soil is fairly consistent because it's well watered, but sometimes when you're in the rough, you need to hammer it in a little bit more, and if you've got, like, tree roots or whatever that you're going into, sometimes you gotta move it over a little bit, because we have a lot of turns that, like, happen in the tree line in between each of the courses, so that's a little bit more common to run into roots as you're, like, mapping out a turn. But anyway, because I was, like, it was weird because I was, like, holding the head of the hammer, and I can't remember if when I went up, like, it kind of, like, popped out of my hand, and then when I came down, as I, like, re-gripped it, it was in there, and it just like a quick pinch, and I'm like, I know what happened. And I literally did this, like, within the first, like, hour of setting up the course. And so I had actually done the course in the span of 2 days, where I had set up a lot of stuff like in the tree line the first day, where it was out of sight of the golfers and not really in the way. So I had gotten everything, like, I basically let it bleed while I was out there because I was only going to be out there for another hour. So I do have some pictures of it that look way more intense than it actually was. But I won't subject you to those as of this moment.
Thank you.
But yeah, because I know some people, that's makes them a little bit squeamish. So I won't force that upon anybody unless they want to see. In which case,
I don't mind it when it's my
show.
own stuff, but when I see other people's, that's when it bothers me. It's weird that way.
Yeah.
The funny
So
thing
anyway,
is
that
I
was.
also smashed my finger this week.
Oh, you did?
But not nearly as bad as yours. Like, it was one of
This
those
is like a
moments where I'm
12-pound
like,
head sledgehammer.
yeah, well, no, I was hammering out the tabs on a bunch of stuff that I had cut on the CNC, because the tabs hold it in once you've done a cut. And so I just use a chisel and I just hammer out those tabs. But I use a black mallet instead of a hammer, or instead of my wooden hammer, because it doesn't need a lot of force, just good enough of a tap.
Yeah, it just pops right through.
And I totally missed and hit my finger, and it was one of those moments where it didn't hurt, and I just looked at it and went, and this is why I don't use that hammer. So yeah, so Yeah. So yeah, not nearly as bad, but it was just one of those moments of, oh yeah, that's why I don't do that.
Yeah, that reminds me, this was maybe 2 years ago, when I was doing more hand tool stuff. I had an apron on, and I was doing, I was chiseling out like a mortise, and one of the chisels that I wasn't using was in like the pocket of the apron. And when I sat down, like I felt a pinch on like the meat of my thumb, and I was like, "Ow, what was that?" And the chisel, I can't remember if like there was like a little open spot in the, you know how sometimes when they sew pockets they don't sew it the full length. So I think it like had poked through and then just like did a little like burp, and it was just like a 1/4-inch chisel, so it wasn't like huge, but it was like a super clean cut because it was nice and sharp. You know, I was like, okay, good. I did a good job sharpening my chisel, so this wound will heal pretty quick, and it did. But yeah, that just made me think of that quick chisel story.
Nice.
The other funny thing that happened was, so after the meet, I had gotten all this stuff. I've gotten worse over the years of like leaving stuff in my car after I've had like a big day of doing installs or whatever, just because I think it's just because I run out of energy. And I had a couple of cans of that grass paint, which is just, I mean, it just looks like a regular can of spray paint. And I needed to take some grass clippings out to dump, and I knew that I had like one of them that didn't have a lid on it, so I made sure that like it was away from those. And then after I dumped the grass and put it back in, there was like one box of stuff where like the box had kind of broken down, where I had kind of forced the bin of now empty grass clippings, and when I hit a turn, it like moved over on it, and it pressed on the actual spray can. And I had my headphones in, so I didn't actually hear it, but I started to like smell. I was like, it smells like paint. And I was actually going by like it's like a local plant for like refrigerant that goes in semi-trailers that like carry cooled cargo. So I was like, I normally don't smell this smell going by this place. Like I'm accustomed to like other smells coming from this place, but not this one. Like, that's weird. And then it occurred to me, I was like, oh, I think one of the spray paint cans like is spraying. So I like stopped the car because I took out my earbud, and I was like, oh, I hear the sound now. So I like stopped the car, go around, and move the garbage bin or the grass clipping bin. And the thing is still spraying inside of the box because how it's oriented, it's like it's still spraying, so it's like dripping the like white paint in the back of the car. And my wife has already been so pissed when I put lumber and other stuff in the back of the car and it gets dirty. I'm like, oh, this is gonna make her so pissed. So there's a little bit of white paint. Fortunately, because it was in that cardboard box, it contained most of it, so it didn't like spray and get all over the car. But there's a couple of spots with white paint on them on the like fabric. It's like right on the back base of the second row of seats, and then on the little bit of carpet on the bottom of like the cargo area in the back of the car, because that was in the CRV. So yeah, I'm hoping, like, rationally in my head, I was thinking, okay, this stuff is supposed to degrade over time, so this should be relatively easy to clean up when I get around to it. So that's what I keep telling myself, as I have not yet cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
I mentioned it a little bit earlier ago, so I am dropping new Etsy files, or have dropped at this point on Etsy and on my website. So if you're interested, go check those out. Etsy has still been just selling like crazy. I had a few sales on my website, but mostly just Etsy for digital files. So everyone is making for the holidays. So if you need some new two-player games, come on over to my site.
And what is your website?
DuffyWoodcraft.com. Or Etsy.com/DuffyWoodcraft.
Go to the DuffyWoodcraft.com.
Yes, I don't have to pay Etsy then. And it's a much cooler website.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. So, I mean, you hover over somewhere on the website and a little UFO flies by, and I'm not going to tell you where, but it's fun. Yeah, I have little Easter eggs on the site. Yeah, but that's all I've been selling. It's a quiet month for me until markets start. So, what about you?
So I've got a very small show that's in November. I think it's on the 22nd. That I just got to be thinking about what I want to prep for then, and then it's somewhere in like mid-December that I'm also going to be prepping for, where it's like a little like holiday jamboree kind of thing that I'll be setting up. So right now I'm thinking about the kind of things that I can make for those that actually make sense, because like doing the wands, like that doesn't really make sense like 3/4 of the way into November, because you're well past Halloween at that point, and the drive for those is probably not quite as much, although I'm sure with the right person you have the right sales, because they're kind of still into like the fall mode. So
I was gonna say in January is the Sasquatch Fest, and there's a guy that only sells wands there, and he's there every year, and he does really well. So I mean, it just depends on your market.
yeah, so I'm not discounting it, but I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket on something like that, where I was like, okay, that's still Halloween, so it may not be quite as hot as it could be if I did something mid to early October. So anyway, I'm trying to think of a couple of small things that I could make during that time frame, because I haven't decided if I want to I might just go full bore on Christmas, just because, and other like more wintry things, just because it would encapsulate both of those shows, and I wouldn't have to necessarily double dip into fall decor, because that kind of aligns a little bit with what I did in the summer, this past summer with the 3D printing, where it was like, okay, I could do a lot of different things that I could sell at the county fair and the farmers market and my son's swim meets that we went to on Saturdays, but like keeping it to the 3D print stuff made sense, because that was easy to handle, easy to manage, because the printers can just go and make stuff. I don't have to add any manufacturing time on my end, other than doing what I need to maintenance wise to keep the printers running.
I mean, cedar lanterns are a big thing around Christmas. People love those. Or if you have some birch logs laying around, like birch log centerpieces are really popular too.
I have a birch stick that's about maybe 2 inches in diameter, so that's all I've got, that came off of a neighbor's tree. I think it might actually be an aspen tree, because aspen are still white, aren't they? They're like
birch,
cousins.
Birch
to
is when
right?
it peels like paper. Yeah, aspen doesn't.
Yeah, I think aspen is what my neighbor has, so that's the closest thing that I have to something like that. I do actually... oh, no, we tore out that... We used to have a holly bush that was in our, like, side yard. So, like, you get the little, like, holly mistletoe thing.
You know, something I haven't seen yet, but I've seen people do it with wood, where they make multiple faces for those holiday lanterns. And, like, you could slide in one for Halloween and one for Christmas and one for Easter and so on. You could combine 3D printing and woodworking and make, like, the carcass out of cedar, and then have, like, a faceplate that you slide in and out made from 3D printing. And that way you could print different designs. And you could do, like, some Pokemon ones. You could do, Pikachu in a Christmas Santa hat.
Yeah, because tea lights are a big thing that you see a lot of 3D prints for. Usually they're kind of on the smaller end, just because they try and keep them minimal material, but you can always scale them up to be something different. Or you could do the lithopane, where it's not actually a cutout, but it's thin enough that you can see the texture and detail. Although if I'm scaling something up, that might change how it looks, which I figured that out when I was making some Pokemon cards, and I think I had some, like, there were ones that were like really like big ones and I scaled them down, and I forgot that scaling it down in the XY direction also scales stuff down in the Z direction, so it became like thinner in areas and it became a little bit wonky. So yeah, that's when I learned my lesson on scaling down things. Even if they're like a flat thing, it still scales it down in the Z direction, so it makes it like, if it's really sensitive to that thickness dimension, you can make it a lot worse. So yeah, that's really all that I've got, because I've been working on fulfilling some existing orders with the dining table set and benches and chairs and stuff that go with it. So I've been working on fulfilling some existing orders. So I haven't been pushing new orders, just because I know that my time frame is out really far for any new stuff. So I just haven't pushed a lot of those custom leads that I have super difficult, just because I know sometimes when you, like, even though they're still interested, if you come back to them with like a super long lead time, then they like can become disinterested. But you know, it's dependent on each person and how they want to do stuff. So if you sit on something long enough, then it no longer becomes a lead at all. So there's pros and cons there of pursuing existing customer leads.
Somebody's watching me. It's my anxiety.
So what have we been watching this week? Well, first, I wanted to shout out Silent Mars Workshop. So Silent Mars Workshop. Frank created a really cool 3D carving out of solid cherry. It's a medieval dragon with Celtic carving for the frame. It's a really beautiful CNC 3D carving piece. If you haven't, don't follow them, go check out Frank over there. He did it with a couple of people and tagged them, but it was a gorgeous piece and really cool to show what you can do with CNC these days with carving.
And that was that just like a picture frame, like a decorative thing, or was it a piece to something?
It was just a decorative picture frame, but yeah, in the middle was the dragon head, and then the frame around it was this really cool Celtic knot carving around the edge.
Gotcha. Because immediately in my head, I thought of like people who do dice towers. I was like, oh, that'd be a cool dice tower setup. It'd probably be a little bit large for that, because I think it was a little bit. How big was it?
I think it was an 8x10 size-ish.
Yeah, so a little bit larger than what you would typically do for a dice tower. I mean, not unheard of, but probably a little bit on the bigger side.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see. My first thing that I have is from undefined design _ link-ing. So link-ing, but add an E after the K. So they made this beautiful Pokeball out of just natural wood, so natural wood colors, and it does actually open. They've got magnets on it so that it opens and it has some storage space in it. And I grew up loving everything Pokemon. Like, I mean, the first gen is the best gen.
Clearly.
But anyway, like I love great Pokemon stuff, and especially like stuff with magnets and storage is always an added bonus. So that came together really nice.
Nice. I wanted to shout out Jig and Chisel Woodworks. She's been killing it with just all of her content. She, if you didn't know, she's the gal who's been doing the shout out for other women makers. She did this really cool. Well, first of all, she had a show this past weekend, so great job on that. I'm glad she was out there selling her stuff, and she had a great setup, and it was a really funny post about her outfit looking like a camp counselor. It was really entertaining. But one of the things that she had posted was this reclaimed cedar beam with some drilled holes in it. And it's very simple. It's just a cedar beam cut on either end, and it's got some holes drilled in it. And then she put some green candles that are in the shape of evergreen trees in it, and it makes a beautiful centerpiece. For one, it was just a prime example of how something can be simple and easy and look beautiful. But two, it's reclaimed because her dad actually found or saved the log from the trash or something, and so she had reused it. So it's just a prime example of how something so simple can look so beautiful and be something that you can sell. So I really wanted to shout out that she did a great job with that.
Oh, I remember now. She also had the post about her setup, like when she was dressed up for that market. She's like, it looked like a 90s camp counselor, and I commented with the YouTube nature guy. This is like early YouTube. Like it's a just classic video, and it just fit perfectly. So yeah. I remember I'm piecing it all together now with the show and then that particular piece. So yeah, that's always a lot. I love when people have fun with stuff like that.
With that, and I did also want to shout, she just got a CNC, so I'm excited for her and can't wait to see what she's making. So
wonderful. Next thing that I have, so this was a story, so you probably won't be able to see it, but it is. Crap! Did I spell this wrong? Yes. It is Dinkles Woodshop. Dinkles Woodshop _Woodshop. So you thought having a snake in your garage was bad. They opened up the bottom of their bandsaw and there was a snake in there.
Oh, no.
Honestly, I'm just impressed how the snake even got in there, because it's supposed to be sealed. So I don't even know how they found their way into that. Like, I'm just curious, but unlike me, they were actually able to get the snake out of there. I'm pretty sure it was a garter snake just like mine, so it wasn't like an issue with them being venomous or anything like that. But they were able to rehome the snake, so everyone ended up okay in that scenario. So
nice.
So yeah, that hit close to home for me.
Yeah, it did. Daniel, I'm going to pronounce your last name wrong, so it's Barousse, Barousse, So his user is at Daniel, and then his last name there. He doesn't post a lot of what he makes on that account, but he did do a shop tour, and I gotta say, it was really interesting. So he is living my dream, I have to say. He is in Costa Rica. He has a shipping container that he has converted into a workshop and has cut the big flaps into it so it opens up and has these beautiful windows that looks out into his, rainforest world that he lives in. And just it's a really well done shop. It looks gorgeous, but yeah, man, my dream I've always said, if I want to retire, I want to just go live on the beach in Costa Rica, make some wood stuff and sell it to the tourists that come by, and that would be my perfect retirement. So he's living my dream.
So is it just his shop that's in this shipping container, or is it also where he lives?
It's just his shop.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, if he also lives there, that's cramming a lot into one shipping container. Because I could see the shop in there, but also living in there, you'd have to be pretty bare bones in what you have to make that work.
You would. I mean, just put another shipping container right next to it, and I'd be fine with that. And that could be my whole living situation.
Modularly expand it.
Yeah. So anyways, that's I wanted to shout him out because I love his shop and I love that he's in Costa Rica, and yeah, looks amazing.
That's wonderful. Next one that I have is, I know I keep on bringing him up, but he keeps on making awesome stuff. Belugan Sam. So he made these bookends that look like beavers. So the beaver is it's sitting down, and then its tail is up, and that's the flat portion that goes back up against the book. So he just does such a great job of integrating the piece so it just naturally looks like it goes where he plans to have it, which whenever you design anything, you know how much work it takes to make something look effortless. So I just wanted to give him kudos that it looks wonderful.
Yeah, and the last one I had was I wanted to shout out Handy Dandy Brandy, again another one we talk about a lot here on the podcast. And I'm only bringing this up because you actually just talked about the snake inside the bandsaw. Was Brandy just got a new jet surface planer, not surface planer. I'm sorry, a drum sander, the 1632, I believe, and
2550.
Oh, the 2550. Okay.
That's the new one. Her original one that she had is the 1632, I believe.
Okay, perfect. Well, while she was assembling it in her reel, she decided to see if she could fit in the cabinet underneath. Sure enough, she fits in there just fine. So she closed the door and said, "If any robbers come to my shop, this is where I will be." Which you're not supposed to say.
I've got my drum sander behind me, and that's. I mean, I could see it. I'm assuming, because mine is a 2244, which is not that different, so I'm guessing the base is pretty similar in size. And it's pretty spacious in there, so I could see that working.
Yeah, it was a good reel. I really enjoyed it. So.
I am too smart. Este Marty.
So our main topic tonight is about learning. And learning online versus in person when it comes to woodworking. So I just wanted to kind of start out and give a little bit of my backstory, which was I learned pretty much everything online. I had done a woodworking class in high school. That was so long ago. I'm old. But I really didn't do anything until COVID with woodworking again. And then I just started going down YouTube University. That is where I would say 95% of my learning has come from. Where I also have done I've done a couple of the Wood Whisperer Guild classes online as well. So you don't have to, there's basically a couple of ways I'd say online. You could go free route or you could go paid route. So like Wood Whisperer for traditional woodworking is a great paid route to go. YouTube is going to be your quick DIY stuff and some skill learning. I do have to shout out Andy Bird Builds, who just launched a new CNC course called the CNC Kickstart, and it is a beautiful training course that walks you through everything you need to get going on your CNC from start to finish. Actually, if you go to my Instagram, there's a link to it on there because he does some amazing things, and I want to promote it because he's how I learned CNC on YouTube, all those university tools, and this class is something I wish I had when I first got started. So I would say there's a couple of different ways you could go that free route or you could go that paid route. And the only in-person classes I've actually done, oddly enough, is I did one wood turning class when I was getting started. I had paid a guy in wood, not in cash, but in wood.
Yeah, you did.
Not that way. I
20
do
logs
that to myself.
20 logs.
Yeah. So I paid him in wood for some hands-on wood turning class because I was trying to make the jump from carbide to traditional tools, and I was having the dickens of a time to do it. And so he gave me some tips and helps on how to do that because I didn't know TJ at that time. Yeah, and that really is the only in-person class I've done other than maybe a few at a show like Workbench Con, but those aren't really traditional woodworking classes. So, but yeah, I mean, I would say versus online and person, you have done more in person, right?
A little bit. So my background is very similar to yours in the sense that I did have like a high school wood shop that was forever ago. The engineering background with some manufacturing, there had been some additional design and fabrication exposure, if you will. So doing stuff with different materials and different mediums and building different things, in addition to the 3D printing aspect of things when it comes to like designing and 3D modeling. But yeah, the woodworking again that didn't start until after COVID, and mine started with YouTube videos as well as podcasts. So a lot of wood talk, just to get familiar with terminology and different ways of doing things, because I didn't necessarily have a lot of projects specifically that I had in mind. So I was just absorbing knowledge so that I had it in my tool belt for later.
I definitely did listen to a lot of Wood Talk at the beginning too, because they're really great in explaining terminology.
Yeah, and I had also spun off and listened to Shannon's Lumber Update, as well as I had actually joined Shannon's hand tool school, which is on handtoolschool.net, and I had gotten access to some of those paid content videos. And again, it was more exercises and not necessarily specific projects that I had in mind, but doing more individual skill components when it came to, like, all right, sawing to a line and using a chisel, and the mechanics of a chisel, as well as like the mechanics because your biomechanics comes in a lot more into play when you are doing hand tools, because without the motor there, like, you need to have consistent motion in order to do whatever operation it is that you have, whether it's sawing or using the chisels, or any of your other tools, aligning your chisels with the mallet if you're like emptying out a mortise or what have you. Not to say that there isn't body biomechanics for usage with power tools. It's just a little bit different. It's more about making sure that your tool is square as it is making the cut or operation, or you're using the trim router on something to make sure that it's actually steady and it's getting a consistent cut, and you're not wobbling and getting it biting into the workpiece itself. And then as time went on, because I built a couple of small things for some people, and then as I started doing more stuff, I kind of switched over to do more power tool related things in the interest of saving time and doing things more quickly. So, upgrading sanders and, doing more operations that I might have done with hand tools if I had, infinite just hobby time going into it. And it was just for the pleasure of making something, because a lot of times the projects that we have are making things for your shop. Like the workbench is always a big one, or cabinets in the shop, other storage mechanisms are very common projects, as well as like cabinets for kitchens. Like those are always common projects that pop up. And there are a million different videos that you can watch on kitchen cabinets. And then when it comes to the in-person stuff, the primary one, the most recent one, I would say, is when I did the Barstool class with Mark, the Wood Whisperer, down in Missouri. And that was like a hands-on, I think it was a 3-day course on making that particular stool. Before that, there would be the actually going to Maker Camp, because there are basically like maybe like hour long, depending on the craft, maybe hour or 2 hour crafts that you can do that are set up there. And the nice thing I would say about the in-person ones is that because there is a time frame and someone there helping you, if you are bad about committing and following through on something, that is excellent to help you actually try something and follow through with it and get completely finished, because you also have someone there helping you if you get stuck on something. Like, it's inherently designed to help you figure out what it is that you need to do so that you have your completed project, and you're more or less likely to get it to completion, barring a couple of hiccups that could happen with probably any project. And there's some pros and cons to those in-person classes, because in the interest of time and making cost of the class itself something that's palatable for those people. Sometimes stuff does get set up, so it's kind of like feeding everyone through a chute where you're kind of like pushing everyone through, where like the tool is set up and all you have to do is like make the cut. So you're not the one necessarily setting up like the table saw to cut some tenons or something like that. Like sometimes in the interest of time, you have those batched out in that sense, and you're still the person pushing through and making the cut, but more of the stuff is set up. But that does also free you up to focus on stuff that you may not know how to do, that you're trying to figure out how to learn. Because like one of the reasons that I had picked that in-person class with Mark was I knew there were a couple of things that he did that were different from things that I did that I wanted to actually try. One of them being like pre-finishing before glue up. Like that was one thing that I had wanted to do, where I was like, I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And it wasn't that big of a deal, but you know, sometimes we have mental blocks. A couple of other things was just the actual design of the bar stool was something that I didn't feel like taking on my own, because it was, I don't want to say it was quite mid-century modern, but it had some elements of that, where it has some curves to it and some I don't know if it technically had compound angles in there. But in that class, it was broken down to be much more digestible, so that you could figure, oh, okay, like, even though there's a curve here, there's like a flat surface here that you're referencing off of, so it's not quite as intimidating as it could be. And, you know, there's other things that you get with in-person that you don't get online, where it's like, oh, hey, you're setting up this thing, make sure that this is referencing off of this face over here, or something like that, where they can like physically show you and you can inspect the workpiece, your specific workpiece, to understand like, oh yeah, like, you know, that's not surfaced or sanded down flat enough, like it's still a rough surface. You'll need to go back and do that before we do this next operation. Like there's a little bit more quality control on your workpiece as you're going through those multiple steps, whereas if you're in an online course, you've got to inspect your own work, and if you screw something up, generally you're the person who's going to have to troubleshoot it. Now, I know that Mark's courses, they have an open dialogue with messaging when you can ask questions on that course, but sometimes it can be a little bit cumbersome to troubleshoot through online messaging, because they don't know how far you are along in the process, and sometimes, like, if you did a couple of steps out of order or something like that, it might be a little bit more difficult for them to help you diagnose. So you'll eventually get there, but it takes a little bit more patience to make that happen as you're going through that exchange.
But if you had to pick one, if you were going to do just online classes or just in-person classes, what would you pick?
I would say currently, right now, for the stage that I'm at, I would pick in-person classes. The reason for that is the things that I'm interested in learning come from being able to, like, ask those questions about, like, why do we do it this way versus that way, and being able to have that open dialogue with the person where you just have that, like, quick instant feedback when you're asking a question. You immediately get the answer and you can just, like, move on and keep that tempo. I will say that the one advantage of the online courses is that if you are still in that stage where you don't know what to do, you can absorb a lot of information very quickly, right. Especially if you've got something in, like, podcast form. And I know in past work roles, like, I had the ability to, like, have that on in, like, the background as I was working. So that's another thing, is, like, I was able to have things in the background and be able to, like, pick up on a couple of things and know at least there are, say, like, 3 or 4 different ways that I could do a particular operation, and figure out how to do it. And I could just pick one that works for mine, but I would have to figure out the details. So if you're early on, the online stuff is definitely helpful because you can absorb a lot of material very quickly and learn probably 3 or 4 different ways to do the same thing, and you can fill in the blanks yourself on which one of those probably works the best. Because, like, say for example, the 3-inch hole that I needed to cut out a grommet for the sofa table that I was making a few weeks ago. There are multiple ways that I could have done that. I could have gotten like a deeper hole saw. I could have just used a straight jigsaw for it and made sure that I followed to a line. I could have, the route that I took was cutting out a circle as a profile and doing a flush trim router bit where I'd already emptied out some of the waste and then just came through with the flush trim router bit on that template essentially to finish it out. And so like that just came from like watching other people do stuff and having a couple of ideas of what I could do, because like the hole saw didn't work because my material was too thick. Okay, throw that one out because the limitation of the tools and the size of the material didn't work. But like if it was 1-inch thick material, I would have done it that way because it would have been way easier and way faster, and it would have still been conducive to that particular tool. But sometimes depending on what you do and thickness of material and size of the project, sometimes you do have to move over to a different way of doing things because it is more conducive to that particular project. Because it's easy to sub out the bandsaw versus the jigsaw, because bandsaw is much easier if you're doing a small workpiece, and jigsaw is going to be a lot better at cutting out like those curves and splines on like a big workpiece, where it's going to be really difficult to like feed that through the bandsaw. So that can also inform you of, what tool purchases might be better based on projects that you're going to be doing and what tools you'll actually need to accomplish that.
Yeah, I would say for me the opposite at this point for me, and mainly that's just because I enjoy working by myself a lot of the times, especially in my shop, and I get frustrated when I'm not learning things fast enough or my own way. So I would only pick online courses. Like I understand the point of in-person courses, but for me, like online is where it's at, and it's specifically around YouTube or a paid course that I have things that I can stop and go back and look at again. Just because I like, especially on YouTube, I like the option to be able to, if I'm stuck on something, and Google it or YouTube it and look for an answer, and then be like, okay, well, that's how this person did it. Now I want to see how somebody else did it. And I can get a bunch of different ways to solve a problem on YouTube that I maybe didn't know I could do beforehand. And I like that because it's not just one individual's way of doing it, because I think a lot of people thought for the longest time woodworking, especially traditional woodworking, there's only the proper way to do it. Well, I disagree with that statement, because woodworking is, if you do it and it gets done in the end, like who cares how you got there? And so I look at it going that for me that this is a good way to see all the different points of view to figure out which one works for me the best. So,
well, and the other thing too is that the benefit that you have there is that because it is recorded, you can go back and rewatch the same section several times if you like are having a tough time absorbing that information, or like there's so much happening in that short amount of time that you need to see it again. Whereas sometimes in the in-person, if you don't like, if it's not part of it that there's a recording, it's like you've got to be sharp to pick up on all the details and remember all that stuff, unless you're taking copious notes as you're doing stuff. So you're
Exactly.
fairly dependent on your own memory, which, I mean, when you're doing hands-on stuff, you get that kind of muscle memory build in there, but it's not necessarily foolproof. But one question I was going to follow up with you is, now there is the paid versus like the free. Are you picking one over the other for you, at least at the moment, out of those two?
For me personally, right now, I would just go towards free because I'm so far into my woodworking journey at this point. And I'm not necessarily trying a ton of things new that I can't just find a 5-minute video on. Now, that said, if I was starting fresh on YouTube, I'd be buying Andy's course, because that literally, or not when I start fresh on YouTube, if I was saying start fresh on CNC, I would be buying that course because it is so perfect as far as everything you need all in one, and step by step by step. Where a lot of YouTube videos, even mine, I'll show you the project and I'll show you how I do it, but I don't take you through every second of it. Mm-hmm. Where like Andy's course takes you through every second. He walks you through zeroing, then you see the machine zero, and he talks to you why you use the zeroing puck versus, just a piece of paper or whatever else you do to zero things out. So there are, so I would say for me personally right now, it would be only the free route. But if I was starting over and starting fresh on something, it would be paying. However,
but still online.
But still online. And I am taking a few guild classes that I am paying for because I want to do those specific projects, furniture related. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure I could find somewhere else that does an overview build of that project, but I want the step-by-step process. So I am going to pay for those, yeah.
Yeah, and there's also a varying degree of detail, like you had mentioned.
Exactly.
Because, like, there's the YouTube video where it's like, and now we're going to go over to my $30,000 CNC and cut out the template, where it's like, okay, there's a few details in between there that we may have missed, so that's, generally speaking... You don't have a $30,000 CNC, do you? It's a few dollars less.
It's a few dollars less.
Yeah. No, what I was getting at was in the a lot of times in the interest of reducing time for the type of content that it's going out there. A lot of times you'll get abridged versions of stuff so that they can keep people's attention, because not always is the like meticulously detailed stuff good for keeping views and eyeballs for advertisers, because that's like, inherently if they are pushing out a lot of free content, they've got to have a way to sustain it, whether it's something they do as a hobby or if they do it full-time as a content creator. They've got to be able to generate enough views and ad revenue to make it happen. So it may not be conducive to like granular step-by-step.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I do my standing thought videos, is because the process, I want to show the process, because there's a lot of things I do individually on projects, like I will hand sand to break the edges, or I use a belt sander on something specific, or so on. But there are different steps of that process. I don't want to show that on there because it's boring and everybody knows how to sand, but I want to show you those steps that I'm taking. So I do my little standing thoughts to keep you entertained while those record, or while I'm showing you those steps of sanding, because nobody wants to watch somebody, and now I used the belt sander, and now I used my sanding block and broke the edges. And now, now I water popped it. Now I resanded again. Like, all that's so boring because we all.
You just got to read it like Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I do those, to keep you entertained. So I totally see that point of why people skip over things.
Yeah, and I have a great respect for people who go through the very, very small and minute details, especially when you are dealing with any type of programmable machine where there's a lot of settings, whether it is 3D printing, laser, CNC. Like, when it comes to the software that you use for that, there's a lot of details in there that you can change, and your workstation may not be, or your machine that you're using may not be exactly the same as theirs, so trying to get those details in, unless you've got like the exact same configuration of them, can be very difficult. And so sorting through very meticulous video sometimes it is worth the amount of video that you have to go through to find that nugget of information that you need to solve whatever issue you were having. Because, like, I mean, as you're mentioning stuff, like, I know one thing that I make sure to do is, like, I cut on the track saw a lot, and I know that the weight of the track saw itself, as it's cantilevered over the piece before I make a cut, can actually tweak that track, and that can affect the angle of the cut going into the cut. And so you can have a little, like, not an actual straight line, if it is, like, if it's hanging over and bending the track itself, you get just enough deflection that you end up with something that is not perfectly crisp and straight. And so I've got, like, that's why I put my hands certain places on the track saw to make sure that it's staying level to the workpiece. And that's why I, joint and plane stuff beforehand so it stays nice and square as, the track is on there, all sorts of stuff like that. And I know that that can be challenging for someone to record and cover all of those details in a video, which is a lot of times why you'll probably want to go to a paid video to get that kind of stuff, because more often than not, it's tough to include those things, like you said, while keeping people's attention on free content platforms. It's not saying that it can't be done, it's saying that it's just not conducive to it, so you're probably not going to find nearly as many of those on the free YouTube videos as you will under a paid platform like Mark's, the Wood Whisperer, or Andy's, or any of the other numerous people that have their own paid platform. Because full disclosure, I do have some of Mark's courses, and I have never gone through and built anything other than the stool that I went for an in-person course. But a lot of the courses that I had purchased, I was interested in one particular thing or one particular operation that they did to make that piece, whether it was, some type of joinery or cutting or making with a template or design related stuff that I wanted to learn from a specific portion of that course that they had made.
Right. Well, actually, and this is a perfect good transition point for
Good news, everyone.
As far as news goes. We're talking about online classes, and I do want to mention that the day after that this comes out, so this is going to come out on October 15th, so the 16th and the 17th is the Vectric training classes. So it's the Vectric user group meeting. They are putting together people from all around the all around the world, who are Vectric power users and are doing classes for teaching you how to do things from 3D carving to, in my class that I'm teaching, game design, and so many others. So Andy's got a class, I have one. There's a whole bunch of people that are going to be on there. So check that out. It's the Vectric user group meeting. Just go to Vectric.com, click on the link at the top for Vectric user group to register. It's free to join, and then you get access to all of these classes live, and we'll all be in the chat as the classes are going, but also then on their YouTube channel after the event. If you can't make it, all the videos will be posted as well. So
do you have to have an actual Vectric license to log in and get access to this, or you can access it regardless? Okay.
You can access it regardless for free. You do not have to have a license. You can just register on the website to the user group meeting, but you can get these classes. So it's a really great place to start, for people who are already users to learn a lot, some more advanced items too. So. Well,
yeah, and that works well in that setup, because what they're teaching in that course that they're giving you like, it only makes sense if you actually purchase the license. So that works in that model for them to give that away, because it's not like they're out anything by giving that away for free. They're not having any lost revenue. They're showing you how to use it so that it presents value to you, so then it makes sense financially for you to actually purchase the Vectric license. And
that lasted an hour and 24 minutes. I'm shocked that stayed on your head that long.
I'm just known for lasting long.
You know who else are known for lasting long?
Maker Camp?
Yeah. It's a they'll love you long time, good time. I don't know.
Yeah. So the events that we have covering here, they're going to be over by the time that this airs, but they're going to be happening between when we record this and when it actually gets released. So Maker Camp up in the Catskill Mountains, which is honestly if you can go at least once and make it up there, it's great because you get exposure to a lot of different mediums of making stuff to see if you like certain things. So like last year when I went up there, I got to do some, let's see, what are all the stuff that I did? Leather working, powder coating with paint. I did, I hand carved like a rubber stamp. I did some, I made chopsticks with a hand plane. What are some of the other, I did some power carving of like a little coffee scoop. So you get to do these like little 1 to 2 hour test drives of a particular making medium where you get something out of it at the end and you get some exposure to it with a little bit of on-hands instruction. I know one of the other booths that I did was an epoxy one where we just did like a simple pumpkin cutout shape, and you did a little bit of epoxy, and you learn mixing colors and combining multiple colors as you're making a piece. So you're doing it in bite-sized pieces, and it's good because you don't have to buy like all of the stuff to test it out. Like I didn't have to buy a powder coating rig to like test it out. Like I was able to do that and see, oh, does this work for me? Is this fun? Do I even like it? Without having to like invest a lot of time and resources into the, tools and training with it. So I highly recommend it, especially if you're looking to try different making mediums. It's a good way to also test out different tools because there are some vendors there that have, various tools. Like TJ mentioned, like he brought a bunch of different turning tools so that people can try them out and see what works for them, because what works for another person may not work well for you because your use case is a little bit different. Then the other event that is happening, which is I have not personally been to, so I cannot speak to it nearly enough detail, is Woodworking in America. And I know that there are some more like traditional speakers talking about more like traditional methods that are there. I don't know what they have for demonstrations, but that's going to be, it's in Iowa somewhere. I think it's Des Moines is where it is, but it's the same weekend as Maker Camp. So by the time that you hear this, it will have already happened. So you'll have to put it on your calendar for the following year in order to attend that.
Well, something you
know
can
what
put on
else
your calendar.
You can attend. Yeah.
Yeah. But this year is our paid patron meetup, October 25th at 8 p.m. Central Time. So mark it on your calendar.
And if you want to be part of you got to be a paid patron to access it. That's how we'll send out the way to join that, and we will have just a grand old time, and it'll be lots of fun. I mean, I can't say that I won't make things on Sora with AI videos. We'll see what happens. Clothing might be optional. Who knows?
And I will probably have tracking numbers for your gifts in the mail at that point too. So, because I still need to get those mailed out.
I thought you were going to say you had tracking numbers for everyone, and I got really concerned there.
Yeah. So, but anyways, thank you guys so much for watching or listening. We appreciate you guys. And remember, we're always here to remind you.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Good night, everybody.
Night, night.